So today on the Robert Space Industry website, the team over at CIG released a brand new roadmap roundup for July 14th for quarter three. If you're ever wondering how to get to these, you go to the latest comm links and it's here. If you happen to be here past when it's on, or you're not on a YouTube video like this, or many of the other content creators who cover these, the links in their description, you can also go to the View All section, and then you can search down and you can move down to the other one, to where it's at. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into there. So they have a laser trip mine that really interested me because I think when you're talking about laser trip mines, it requires a certain sense of sophistication to FPS and also server trust because you're putting an item down that has to detect a player or, as they put, something coming in contact with a beam that's deployed, and then it finally goes boom. This is a deployable that has to be tracked by the server, and also it has to have a if-then sequence. If something walks into it, it explodes. So being able to trust the servers and trust syncing with the servers, that much is a nice indication that we're going in the right direction. I also think that tools like this will be used in both FPS gameplay in the PU. It'll be used in Squadron, and also I would say that they would do a nice job kind of flushing out everything for theaters of war should that come in the near future. I'm still optimistic about that, although no inside knowledge or anything. Just would like to see where that's going, and we've heard some rumors, discussion about that's still in development. Theaters of war. That's a fact, actually. Frontier clothing. So this is another indication of both NPC and players being able to use clothing that would match more in with the Outpost aesthetic. Both NPC Outpost technology and also player Outpost are both in development. So this is nice to see. The leather armor that subscribers recently got looks fantastic, and I suspect that more Frontier style clothing will kind of go in line with that. Maybe it'll be a little less aggressive, but it'll be something close to that kind of feel where it's not really like a spacesuit that belongs in space. It's something that makes more sense on a farm, on a mining outpost, that's in air, and being able to get tore up a little bit. Maybe wear and tear would be a little cheaper to repair. Heck, you might even be able to make products yourself, although I'm just speculating at that last part. So, female player heads, modeling and texture polishes. I think anything like this to kind of flesh out people's characters and make them more attached and add immersion is a good thing for all different parts of the Star Citizen universe. Like they said here, after this pass on this asset, it will be sent to tech animation for a rigging update. Great. DGS mesh nodes. So the dedicated game servers and clients connected to the same instance of a hybrid service allows DGS to exchange entities and authority over them. There's some key words there. The mesh node will allow multiple game servers and the clients connected to them in the same hybrid instance. Hybrid service, which suggests to me an instance or a chain of instances that all are able to communicate with each other. Say, for example, for a future type of event, kind of like a Xenothreat type event, maybe the economy parts of it and other things like that. We're going to have to see more information about that. I strongly suspect that the devs will have those videos when they're ready to talk about it. And exchange entities and authority over them is keywords for me to perk up about micro jump points that are intended to be tested within Stanton that basically do the same thing as jumping between systems. As we understand it, the micro jump point that will be from Microtech to Hurston, if it's implemented as rumors are suggesting, that would be about the same technology as jumping from Stanton to, say, Pyro next door. And when that happens, you will be exchanged, your ship and everybody on it will be exchanged to another server. And there will be these instances that can load and transfer over. This is all part of the same system. And yes, if you heard entity graphing mentioned by Chris Roberts in his most recent interview alongside Sandy, this is what is going to be part of that. The entity graph is going to log all that information, and then the mesh and the DGS will communicate. Basically, the mesh node will be able to transfer information between multiple game servers. I'm trying my best to keep coherent about that. I realize it sounds convoluted because it is. It's complicated tech. Honestly, I'm not the best person to talk about it. I'm not a server architect. So Shard management, they're talking about the add functionality to the hybrid of the shard management component service. Shard manager functionality is responsible for creating a shard on the there we go, the entity graph database, ensuring it is seeded with the initial population of entities, communicating with matchmakers so the player can join a shard, and talking to provisioning services so that a hybrid and dedicated game server can be assigned to a shard. This is all talk about basically building those components in where they're supposed to be, making sure players are where they're supposed to be, and all the objects that are involved. Because when the takeaway here, if there's anything I understand, and I want you guys and gals to understand, is plain and simple. If they can have servers talk and be able to seamlessly, without any loading screens or extraordinarily short, like, I mean, millisecond, something loading screens, we're going to have a much larger world. Levski was taken out of Stanton. One of the reasons was not just so they could, reinforce that it belongs in Nix, the system of Nix. It was also taken out so they could have Fleet Week or one of those type of events, one of the flyby fleet events or Xenothreat event. It might have been Xenothreat. But the larger ships in that game without crashing the server. A single server was having basically trouble handling all these entities at once. By having multiple servers across all these different places, they can bring everything together. That means the more those servers talk and reliably talk, you're going to have a better gameplay experience, and so will the entire community. And that means higher population counts on servers. That means more entities on servers. That means more ships, larger ships. And also things like player outpost, private hangars, everything hangs on getting this server tech running correctly and all the intricacies of it. So that's where we're at with everything. And that also applies down here. So inventory unstow. So when you talk about inventory, they're starting with player inventories. They're talking about 3.15. They want to start with inventories that actually matter, where you can't carry like 99,000 med pens and just stream them in as needed. Well, you'll have to make decisions based on what you can carry, the weapons, the ammunition, the tools. You may not want as many weapons because you want to do more exploring and make more money, and that will have consequences. And the same vice versa for the other direction. That means that inventory will become critical, and all the small different things that you would think are normal, very simple things, become very important, because each one of those inventories is not just something in the ether that you can stream in and out. It's something that you actually have to think about, and that goes all the way down to a ship's cargo, because you can only carry so much on your person. What's going to happen is your ship's cargo is going to be your extra size pockets, and anything you can't carry directly on your person, you'll be carrying in your ship. So you'll still have to go back to it to get it, but at least it's still there. There's a lot of interesting discussion. So we see that they're talking about implementing persistent data from an inventory into a shard managed by the entity graph and adding that item to the replication layer. So being able to pull items and bring them into a different shard and constantly move them back and forth between DGS's dedicated game servers as needed. Stowing for an entity. They're talking about a ship loaded with cargo being stowed, stores the ship and its associated cargo. This work implements removing from a replication layer, moving its persistent data into an inventory managed by the entity graph. Once again, we are talking about the technology that is needed to allow servers to pull and push and grab both players and all the items in a server and move it to another server, allow you to log out safely, and then remember every single thing you are doing and where you were at exactly, and every single item on your ship. If you put down a Finley whale on the counter in your ship, you're going to need to be able to log back in, and it's standing there. If you've got a pack of water and snack bars, because that stuff's going to matter a lot more now, well, all of a sudden you're going to need to have those properly stowed away like you had them. So this is going to become critical. And that's also, once again, player habs, player hangars, down the line, player outpost. These are all hung on this technology. This all has to function well. No pressure. I want to take this moment to thank the server development team, the folks who actually keep the servers running as well. You have done incredible strides, and you're still working on it, and I appreciate all you do. Entity stow and destroy. Uh, item item port mod API. So this will allow the vehicles to be modified and the ship loadouts inside inventories. This is just, once again, you're not going to be able to stream things in from anywhere. So you're going to have to bring the items with you. So the thought is, how do you load in a new weapon? How do you put a new paint on? You're going to need a kit that will be sitting inside the inventory of, say, the hangar you're sitting in or the ship you're sitting in. And you'll have to literally load and unload it at the appropriate location, at the correct pad or in your own hangar, hopefully down the line. You can see where this is going. These are all things that are going to have to work together. And there's another app, by the way, that they're working on that'll allow you to work all the different queuing up ships from your ASOP terminal style instead from your mobiGlas. So when you walk up to that kiosk inside the spaceport and you have to reclaim your ship from there, instead you'll be able to, as soon as you wake up, if you died, for example, or you logged off, you can start the recall process directly from your mobiGlas instantly, which means that there'll be a lot less downtime for players and be able to get back in the game. By the time you get through all the shuttles and everything else, you'll be at the spaceport. Hopefully you'll have either no or little to no wait. And also you won't have that backlog at the kiosks. You'll instantly be able to go to your hangar, queue it up, go. Oh, I should say the spaceport assigned hangar. Hopefully down the line you will have your own hangar. Be kind of cool to be able to see all the NPCs getting your ship ready and fully tuned up while you're wake up in your hab and walk across and jump right in your ship without any nonsense and on your own timeline. I can't wait for those days. So that's kind of where we're at with a few different things. You see these API draw codes. I'm going to shard data, freeform variable APIs. These are all back-end things to be able to allow different services to function correctly. AI navigational links, ladder/ledge grab. So implementing special adapters to allow the navigation system to be informed of potential nav mesh connections offered by ladders or ledge grab markup. The navigation links already allow the creation of adapters that contain game-specific functionality to function as sort of translators between specific domain into the navigation system. That is very simple talk for the AI will be able to go up a ladder or be able to grab a cave ledge and be able to climb up it. And I'm happy about it. Any work that is done to make the ladders safer is not just for AI, but also for players, by the way, because ladders are one of the #1 killers in all the game. They have the highest KDR. So, especially the Prospector, for example, that's a notorious one every few patches. So seeing that development on ladders and ledge grabs, even if it's just for the AI, is a nice touch. AI will not be able to get into certain ships without being able to climb a ladder, by the way. So once again, this is necessary. And we will have NPCs helping out on our ships very soon, at least based on the way you see all this development going for Q3. So AI trolley push and pull. Trolley-like entities is the wording here. You allow NPCs to use them. This is only for the hospitals, or I'm guessing other things too in the future, like RP elements for the squadron or in the PU and other locations. But for now, the biggest things that are trolleys and trolley-like entities are two things. You've got trolleys that are in certain spaceports and they basically can carry a small amount of boxes, or trolley-like entities that are at the Orison General Hospital. So if you saw, I think Chapter 2 of my streams from Orison Adventures in the 3.14 PTU Adventures, and that one was specifically in Orison, you saw that there was a medical trolley that was like a gurney that allowed you to push players around on top of them, but the player can't lay down. They actually have to crouch or go prone themselves. And there's two ends that allow you to grapple on and then literally push it. There's also a walker for like a medical walker, like with 4 wheels and all that. And then there's also a trolley cart that's like a medical device, like a scanning array or something that you would take around to different rooms, it looks like. And that's also a trolley with a single point. And we were assessing those for props for Machinima, which it's always welcome, by the way. Anything that can be interactive with players is always welcome. But these all have different roles, and the NPCs will need to use them. I know this is already becoming a meme, but folks, we need more of these little things to really flush out the world. If the hospital wasn't able to move around the objects and physically, actually pull a player into scanning or healing or something, and they just stood there while the thing magically moved, it kind of take you out of it a little bit, to say the least. So I'm not saying it's a critical thing this moment, but it's good to see they're being worked on, and I'm guessing that's not a big haul right there. The animations are already done, and there's already you can see the player can already manipulate them. Okay, ground vehicle AI, which is very welcome. Anybody who has a tank, anybody who has a ballista, will know that this is important. I also see for player outpost, ground vehicles are going to be critical, and the AI being able to manipulate a ground vehicle is going to be great. Imagine if you could send off an AI in a scout vehicle, like a Cyclone RN, on a designated route that, like a big square. Just literally draw a big square and just say, place a beacon anywhere there's a target, anything that doesn't look right. At least you have that basic information. Or if you're in a Nova tank, being able to put a NPCs in the other seats and be able to at least have one that's a driver and you're the gunner, for example. You can designate it, put me on this ridge, and it drives you over there, and then it sits. Places that you already know the layout of would be very good. Yes, those ground vehicles need a lot of work before I see the comments fill up with those type of topics, but I still feel that the AI does need to be implemented, and this also plays a nice role for things like Theater of War, the Squadron, obviously, and the PU in general. It's a triple threat here. Ground vehicles with AI, very good. I could also see ground vehicles being driven that are helping to offload cargo. I feel that a ground vehicle with a tractor beam is going to come. I just feel it in my bones. I'm not saying I know anything, but it just makes sense. We got handheld tractor beams, even specialty ones versus multi-tool ones. We've got ships with all sorts of sizes and mounts. I could definitely see a tiny, tier 0 or 1 or something tractor beam truck that has that type of capability, or at least one of those trolleys even, just an oversized one. So I don't know. Just a thought, but this is an important thing. Also, they're allowing AI to control missile turrets. I am not surprised about this. Missile tech for player ships and co-pilot seats and everything was being brought in. It doesn't surprise me that they added AI-controlled missile turrets to help improve defense of what they call green zones. I am assuming they're armistice zones. I could be wrong. Maybe that's a Theaters of War reference or a Arena Commander reference. I don't know, but I would say that armistice zones are probably some of the tighter armistice zones or UEE-backed armistice zones. Somebody comment below if you know the exact term, why the green zone is being used. That would be great. But yeah, anywhere that has like a strong military presence and can defend itself, or a large company owns it or something. AI medical. So once this is, we talked about this in an upcoming collaboration I've done with Awesome Ash. I can't link it yet; it's not out yet, but it's going to come soon. When it is, I'll be sure to post it all over here. But they're talking about having AI and also players be able to heal other players and NPCs. So this is really exciting stuff. It's also tied in with these new tool, the Cure Life Medical Gun, that will allow you to cure players and NPCs. And they're also talking about the first iteration of the changes to Death of a Spaceman. I am not going to go completely into that, but it will become extremely critical that you're healed, and each one of your body parts will have its own hit point pool. So right now, as the devs explained, you can be shot like 50 times in the hand and eventually die. In the new game, you'll lose functionality of that hand or that arm or something of that nature, and you won't die. You'll just simply lose that arm if you don't get healed long enough, and over time you will get worse and worse and worse if you don't get proper health care at the correct tier level, tier 1 through 3. So once again, I'm not going to go completely into that. The collab video I did over on Awesome Ash's channel that's coming up soon will be all over that, and also the Apollo, Cuddy Red, and Endeavor. So really exciting stuff. AI Leisure. Cool. I know this is sorry, didn't mean to say it that way, but I like to see them doing more stuff to kind of immerse themselves. This is to me, this is an extension of the ships in Squadron, where they talked about how like they're going to have they had to double the population of the ships on the larger ships like the Jav, for example, and the smaller ones, because they they realized that it doesn't make sense to have them all the crew on there 24/7 to just constantly doing something. So what they thought of is having this time period where they're sleeping or they're doing other things other than their job. And this is another example of that. So to me, this is pretty cool, and this brings the leisure system is bringing that type of downtime speak to the rest of the world, which is awesome. Once again, immersion, immersion, immersion. Dancing, a civilian AI leisure behavior. I find it funny it's its own thing. I get that because there's a lot of work that would go into dancing. Uh, I think it's cool. That's fine with me. It's a little bit early for AI being doing dancing, but I know some folks love the RP elements, and it's a little drab at bars where everybody's just standing on a chair or walking up to the bar and buying a drink, and that's it, or whatnot. Speaking of which, the bartender is back in Area 18 as of the latest patch. So for PTU 3.14F, the bartenders are coming back to G-Lock and a few other places. So I'm glad to see that. I wouldn't be surprised if that was some of the things they're looking at while they're talking about implementing dancing across the board at nightclubs and bars. Fire hazard system to track temperatures and static and dynamic objects. In the initial release, the feature will be set up on a select few vehicles. This is part of room tech. So a long time ago, the devs talked a lot about implementing this system that tracks the level of oxygen, the heat level, and the buildup of chemicals, etc., in a room on a ship. So each piece of the ship is compartmentalized wherever the doors are, and each of them acts as a room box, like a container. And then that has effects, obviously, on the rest of the ship. If you're causing a bunch of damage inside, it could, in theory, damage the hull structure if it does enough damage to the rest of the ship. But at the very least, the room is tracked. So this is really cool. It's a shame it's only on a few select vehicles. I'd love to see the list of those select vehicles. It's an example of like these type of summary patch notes are sometimes a little frustrating, but I'm glad to see that we are getting feedback from the devs and seeing where their eyes are looking. They might not know the exact list right now, by the way, as well. So let's not get pitchforks out yet. Destructible workflow. Build out a workflow to allow artists and designers to work with destructible objects. Glad to see it. Don't know what else to say about that. We need more destructible type of objects, things that just don't explode and then they disappear, or have a brilliant flash and then they disappear. Objects that are destructible in the environment is good. It allows for immersion. As we get more and more inventory space, and as servers can track more and more objects and states of those objects and the entity list, I'm not surprised that they're starting to turn back to the artists and the designers and saying, look, we can start having more of these, a cargo containers, and during a shootout could explode and collapse or something, and allow some more immersion. So cool stuff. Maya Live Link between Maya and Lumberyard, Star Engine, Sandbox Editor. That's very interesting. So it's one more set of tool, like a linking tool, but a tool that gets what you see is what you get style preview, seamlessly integrating editor branding images into Maya viewport. That's really good. I like that they're basically streamlining their rendering process and being able to see a bit closer to what they're working on and editing, and then they throw it together and then it's kicked over into Maya viewport. That sounds like a great workflow to me. Anything that makes it simpler and easier to avoid errors and spot them earlier if you do have an error is good. And that means that there's more content getting done. Rescue transport missions. Taking advantage of AI, follow behaviors, and create missions where players transport customers from one location to another. The VIP missions and less than VIP missions, smuggling probably people to different locations that are wanted, things like that. Along with prototype missions where players must rescue imperiled clients from dangerous situations and escort them to safety. Great. Escort missions are not my favorite thing, but the more options we have, the better. If you don't like a specific type of mission, you don't have to take it. I probably won't be doing too many escort them to safety missions, but we'll see. Maybe it's a little different when you think about it. If you're putting them in a ship, and that's kind of the extent of your escorting, that's probably pretty cool. If you have to take them like 4 miles on foot because of radar dome, radar coverage and ballistic coverage of the site, and then you finally get back to your ship to fly them away, that doesn't sound too fun, because escorting AI in any game, even the best AIs, is always difficult. We'll see. I have faith that they'll make it a really interesting thing, maybe to shake up the set of missions available. Speaking of that, infiltrate and defend missions. So those bunker missions, i.e. underground facilities, are the first place to benefit from the addition of spawn closets, which will allow us the expansion of the suite of missions that take place there. Missions range from all-out assaults to situations where you may be able to complete objectives without the need to engage in combat at all. Very cool. So stealth missions. And include both lawful and unlawful versions. Even better. So you can reinforce that character. You can also build the community around what they're interested in. If a group has a more lawful good type perspective, or neutral perspective, they may not want to go in and hurt a bunch of innocent people that are, but people that enjoy the chaos, enjoy being the bad guys, and be able to make enough money. They may enjoy, doing a heist or something like that. Maybe, just heisting the building or something from all its, secret drug or money or something, or QEC. So I'm glad to see that there's both versions there that kind of cater to different parts of the community and how they identify. And also the fact spawn closets are being brought in is a good thing. Right now, the way it's set up is what you see is what you get when you get in there. You literally have like, okay, there's 30 enemy, go find the 30 enemy and fight them. And you'll clear a whole area and that's it. It's empty. Spawn closets allow them to add dynamics where when you're coming back out, there'll be new enemies that appear and go, no, we came to reinforce and we're here to stop you. And that'll keep it more interesting. Instead of walking back through an abandoned bunker that's completely empty after you've taken everybody out to get to the objective and then you're coming back out, you'll have that gameplay dynamic. Is there going to be reinforcements? Am I going to beat the clock? Maybe if I speed run this with me and my org mates and we're all suited up and kitted out for this job specifically, we'll be able to knock this out so fast that if we do everything right, we'll be able to beat the reinforcements and be back on our ship, and they'll be landing just as we're taking off. Something like that would be really cool. So it gives those tools back to the developers to be able to think of those type of interesting ways to play the game. And Comrade mission improvements, they're cool. Right now, it's kind of very straightforward, the Comrades, and I think it's pretty cool to see totally new missions set across and around the Comrades with specific focus on PvP content. You'll probably have to sit there while it's getting fixed or while it's being destroyed, and you'll have to defend against the good or the bad people. And like it says, PvP content. I wouldn't also be surprised if there's some type of FPS, like you have to EVA over, and it could even be an EVA shootout if somebody else is already trying to finish it. That'd be really exciting stuff. Physical QT movement. So during quantum travel, there is basically an animation that occurs. I'll be honest with you, I have not done the research on this to confirm if this is QT movement as in like you can just move your ship around slightly like you can in a few other games, like when you're in a warp, so to speak, you can fidget a little bit. Or is this something where it's just physicalizing the actual movement of quantum travel in a more realistic way, i.e. the system goes around your shields a little better, it considers the objects around you a little better. That's kind of what I'm interested in there. I guess we'll find out. The Hull B was originally scheduled to be worked on simultaneously with the Hull A. However, additional resources needed to allocate to the Hull A. Therefore, we're temporarily removing the Hull B from the progress tracker until it has been rescheduled. That's a shame. So that was coming up past 3.15. We were talking about the Hull B. It's getting pushed back even further. It looks like they're trying to get the Hull A at the door, and that's a shame The Hull B is a very popular hauling ship that a lot of folks have in their stable on their hangar. And they've backed it. They've laid back because of the Hull B. It's a decent sized ship for hauling that has a good capacity for what it can do. And I think it's going to get a little bit of an SCU hit, but I thought it was going to come out relatively soon. So it was going to be one of those where, hey, at least you got the ship in your hands, even if it takes a small SCU hit. I would hate to see it get a small SCU hit to bring it back in line with what the modern SCUs look like, and also it get pushed back, a whole year or something like that. That would be a real shame. So I really hearts out to the hauling community. I know the Hull B is a very popular ship. It's up there with like the Hull C. The Hull B and the Hull C were seen as like those really nice ships for the price point, for the hauling capacity, and really getting your feet wet in the Hull series. The Hull A, I don't know the numbers. I'd love to know the numbers on the number of Hull A's sold versus B's for C's, but I don't know that many people excited about the Hull A. It's more of a starter freight ship. So I'm glad to see it coming out. I hate to see that it's kind of killing them. It's pushing the B a lot back in order to be able to make it out the door soon. That's a shame. So finally, we have the release view is added to the Alpha 3.17 column. Persistent hangars. Yes, 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 yes. Anybody who's been here from quite a few years back can remember how exciting even your own hangar was. But this is as an incredible difference that you're going to be in the PU while you're using it, and all your org mates and friends will be able to go into there. Gone are the days of getting booted from your hangars because you were there for too long. Being able to go into your own hangar, hang out with your ships, tune them, mod them to your heart's content, fix them up, load them with cargo, and form up your crew is just, I can't explain it. It's a freedom. It's an absolute freedom and a joy. I have no intention of hanging out in any habs after hangars come out. My idea is to literally just hang out in the dang ships for the most part until outposts come out. It's right below here. But for the most part, persistent hangars are where it's at. I'm very excited about them. I think that you see a little bit of a warning sign here. This will bring changes to cargo gameplay loop by allowing players to buy cargo and send it to their hangars, then maximize their cargo space by allowing to pack the goods themselves. I believe this is code for they're going to remove the automated drops of cargo into your cargo hold. So right now, when you buy medical products, you go into the trade window, you pop open the specific ship, let's say a Pisces, and you get a few SCU of the medical products slapped into your Pisces. Well, it instantly is put in there when you buy it. And then when you spawn the ship at the ASOP terminal, it's sitting in there already. You can go fly away with it to go sell it somewhere else. And then sell it when you land. You can store the ship, and then still you can grab the items out of it and sell them. This will change things because I believe that it will automatically plop the cargo into your hangar until they have AI that can tote it over there with trolleys and even larger mechanisms. Maybe MPUF cargo, for example, would be a nice touch. But until then, it will magically appear in your hangar after a set amount of time, and then you will have to grab all that stuff with trolleys and whatever else, tractor beams. By the way, tractor beams are in 3.14, hand tractor beams, and be able to bring them over and plop them into your ship. It's going to take some time. So, I mean, on a small ship like the Pisces I just used as an example, it'll take you seconds. You might not even need the multi-tool with the tractor beam attachment or the future upgraded hand tool that's specifically just made for tractor beam work, tool that's even better, or the ship tractor beams that are slowly going to be put online, like on the Taurus, the Raelin, the Cat, are just some of the examples that have tractor beams. But you could even carry it by hand or on a single trolley. But when you get to a bigger ship, like those Cats, the Raelin, the M2, the C2, the Taurus, these ships are going to get big fast. And until AI comes online, I'm very nervous about them adding this whole cargo dynamic of you loading the cargo yourself. I really hope that they have the AI in there. Once again, for the hauling community who just lost their whole B being pushed back, uh, this is kind of a double hit right here for them to keep an eye on. And I will keep an eye on this, so please be sure to subscribe. And finally, in this view of quarter 3, we're looking at Outpost, Homestead, Independent, and Outlaw. Now, there's 6 different styles of Outpost they're talking about, and we'll see how that all comes together. But for now, you see that what they say, the Independent and Outlaw homesteads, and a small home for AI to live and shelter. They consist of a central hub and a few optional and external modules. They provide basic necessities to support a small group for an indefinite amount of time. The indefinite amount of time is done through add-ons to the location, like solar panels on the rooftops and other processing capacities to be able to make food, water, solar, air if necessary. It's a nice step forward, and it will allow us to see what Outposts will look like when they're in the player's hands. I also think it also sets a tone to know that player outposts are going to be beyond this time period. So for 3.17, it is unlikely that we'll see player outposts, but we will see these AI outposts. And when you go on a tour of them, you'll be able to see what player outposts will look like. And I think that we'll also be able to abuse these a little bit. So if you're somebody who cave mines and uses the ROC, the ROCDS, hand tools, actually the new mining tools, hopefully they'll be in by 3.17, you'll be able to go mine, go crash at this house again, and be able to take advantage of it to give yourself oxygen, warm back up or cool down, and be able to maybe throw some storage in there. I wouldn't be surprised if especially if we're talking about persistence and items, you could have a buddy drop you off with your RSC, say I'll be back later or something, and keep filling it up with boxes. I will definitely try that. So CIG hopefully will not listen to this because that'll be my plan. But it'll also give me a perspective of what it'll be like to have a player outpost. And at the very basics of the player outpost will be these things: to live and shelter in an indefinite amount of time with optional internal and external modules. Just some thoughts. And that's what we have today on this kind of rundown. And it's looking good. I'm very positive about it. I think quarter 3 is an exciting time. I hate to see some of the things that'll change, but then again, things are always changing, and I feel that this will always be something positive for us to all enjoy. Please like, comment, and subscribe if this helped you out. And as always, I love feedback either on here or on Discord. Y'all have a good one.